Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lucas von Hollen. Recently, one of my students decided to take some pictures during my class and posted about them on Twitter. Then that exploded. And in the past 3 days, I've received more messages than I can count in languages ranging from Spanish to Portuguese to French to German to Russian to what I think is Japanese. I don't recognize most of the characters. All centered around the big underlying question of how did I do that and can you do it too? Well, I've got good news. The answer is yes, and in fact, it's very, very easy to do. The only things required are a webcam, a computer of some kind, and you will need some kind of green backdrop or otherwise a way to differentiate yourself. You can't use the default Zoom background removal tool. But assuming you have the three of those, you don't have to pay a dime. It's straightforward and easy to use, and I'm happy to walk you through it. Although before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, I should probably walk through a couple of the other questions that I did receive, or at least the more popular questions, one of which was, why do I look so much like Lin-Manuel Miranda? I don't know who that is. I don't follow sports. Sorry. Another one was, are you capable of peeling an entire orange without breaking the skin? The answer is yes. And not only that, I found my sock behind the washing machine, and it was just a great day. For those that don't get what that was a reference to, it's actually an inside joke in Animal Crossing, because normally in-game, the person that I'm talking for, Isabelle, who's sitting at the table, says those things, and so it's a joke. It's an inside joke. For those of you who asked, why wasn't I doing this in 2020 when the game first came out? I have been, and I still do. This is just the first time that a student decided to tweet about it. For those of you asking, are you single? Stop it. To everyone that asked for my Dreamtown code, no. Because if I were to give you my Dreamtown code, that means that you would get to go to my island in Animal Crossing and you would see just how much time I've put into that. And that is an unhealthy amount that no one needs to be aware of. And to whoever said, see no air, oh God. All right, that's not English. That's okay though. This is what the technology is for. I can simply click this and we can go to Google Translate and I can just paste it in here. There we go. Really? Well, to that I can only respond, lo que más amarga al amargado es no lograr amargarle la vida a los demás. Thank you. So, without further ado, let's talk about how we can get you in Animal Crossing. As I mentioned previously, it is not particularly challenging. For those of you who are calling me a genius for figuring out how to do something like this, oh, quite the opposite. I am, in fact, an idiot, but so can you. All you need is a piece of software called OBS, Open Broadcasting Software. It's available for free online, it's open source, and it's maintained by the community. And as a technology instructor, that gets an A+ in my book. I've put a link for where you can download it again for free in the description. So I'm actually going to open that software now and walk you through the rest of the way while holding your hand here. So give me a moment and I'm going to attempt to record the software I'm actively using. Let's see here. There we are. And so let me make sure that you can see me. Hello, this is OBS. You might be a little overwhelmed at first because of the sheer amount of options. Don't be. To put yourself in Animal Crossing, you barely have to touch any of these things. In fact, you can ignore almost all of it aside from 2 of the boxes. The only 2 boxes we need to worry about are the one below here, which says Sources, and the one in the corner that says Scenes. Now, don't worry. When you first open the program, it'll probably look a little different. Mine has a lot of sources and a lot of scenes because I do a lot more than just Animal Crossing with this. But For you, just getting started, all you need to focus about is those two boxes. And in fact, when you start, you probably won't even have a scene. So what I'm going to do is actually create a new scene by going to this little plus button in the bottom right and making a new one. Now, I'm going to call this one Animal Crossing Example, because this is an example of how to do it with Animal Crossing. So I'll press OK. And you'll note that, oh no, I've gone away, but that's fine because we're on a new scene. The old scene was what was showing my webcam. In this scene, I have no sources, just as you won't either. Now that's fine. The first thing we want to do is add a webcam as a source so you can actually see yourself. And in this case, me. So I'm going to go to Add. And again, there's a lot of options. Don't worry, you can ignore most of them. I'm going to click Video Capture Device. And I'll put on Example Webcam. And I'll press OK. Now it's going to ask me, what webcam would I like to use? The answer for that one is whatever the default is. In my case, that happens to be the webcam I need. If you have a couple of them, you can click from the drop-down and find it, but for the most part, it usually is pretty good about finding the one that you'd like. So I'm going to press OK. And here I am. Hi. Now, I can actually drag and move myself around to my heart's content without too much issue, and you can have a lot of fun with this. The more we go through this, the more you'll get the hang of it, and I'm sure that you'll find your own spins to put on this, which is the exciting part. But as long as you have that first webcam where you can see yourself in some fashion, well, you're on the right track. Now, the next steps are adding the backdrop and the foreground so that it looks like I'm actually sitting at the desk. This is also very simple. Normally, you'd have to go into Game or search Google to find the Animal Crossing backdrop. For your convenience, I've put a link to that file in the description below, which I'm going to let you go download real fast, and assuming you've downloaded it, this is what you'll do next. You'll click the plus button not on scenes, but on sources, because we're already in the Animal Crossing scene, but we need a couple more sources, places to find material. One of the places it's getting material is my webcam. Another one is going to be the background from the internet. So I'll press the plus button, and I'm going to put an image. Now it'll ask me, what image would I like to put? And I'll put Animal Crossing background. And it'll ask me where this image is. Assuming you've downloaded it, you can simply browse and locate it on your computer. So let's see here. There it is, the Animal Crossing background. Perfect. Now, you'll notice that appeared on top of me. That's fine. You can drag yourself and this one around as much as you like. But because it is a background, we do need it to actually be in the background. Being in the foreground isn't going to help us. You need to be able to see me. So on sources, I'm simply going to drag and drop and rearrange them. Notice how the example webcam is below the background layer. I can simply click and drag. And now I'm on top of it, which is the goal. So, with that in mind, I can actually stretch this background so it fills up the entire backdrop. There we go. And I'm well on my way. So now I can actually put myself on top of the desk. But that obviously doesn't help us as much because we need to be behind the desk. So we're actually going to add another layer. Think of it like making a sandwich where the backdrop is a piece of bread. I am your delicious meat. And in front is the picture of the desk because that's the other piece of bread and that goes on top. So you could go into this scene and actually Photoshop out the desk and crop it and whatnot. But again, for the sake of saving you some time, I've also linked to a cropped desk with a transparent background that you can download in the description. So I'll give you a second to download that now. And now we can put it in our scene. So I'm going to go down to Add Sources, just like we've done several times before, and click the plus button. And I'm going to go back up to Image, because we are adding another image. And when I click it, I'm going to create a new, and I'm going to call this one Desk Example. Yours won't have the word example in all of them. Mine do, just because, again, this is an example. So I'll press OK, and it'll ask me, just like before, where's your image? Assuming you've downloaded it, you can simply click Browse and find the image you downloaded. Fantastic. Now, this does pose a problem because it's not only not the right size, it's also not in the same location, but that's an easy fix. I can simply put it in the corner and just drag it up. Again, all I did was move it to the corner and drag it to full screen. And just like that, hey, it looks like I'm behind the desk. Now, my scaling might be a little off here, so I might want to resize myself. There we go. I'll make myself just a little bigger. Position it right there. There we go. This looks a little better. Is this thing on? Tap, tap, tap. So, now the big problem, we've got this green box surrounding me. We don't want that. Luckily, instead of having to get very creative with chroma key and all sorts of advanced effects, there's an easy way to do that in OBS as well. So what I'm going to do is click on example webcam, the one that has me in it, and I'm going to click on filters. You can just click on filters here if you'd like. Take a look at where my mouse is below the screen, or you can right click and then choose filters. Either way, you'll be presented with a menu like this. You can still see yourself looking good. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, looking real good. And here's what you do. There's a lot of different video filters that you can add and effect filters. Right now, our main goal is effect filters because taking away the green is an effect. So I'm going to press the plus button, just like I have so far. The theme when adding new things is the plus button. And I get a bunch of different options here. All sorts of fun stuff to choose from. Because I want to get rid of the green, I'm going to do something called chroma key. This is a real term that's used in the actual movie industry, chroma key. It's what gets rid of the green screens. And in clicking that, I get to name it, and I'll just keep it named chroma key for now. And oh, hey, look at that! The background's gone. Now, it might not be as instant for you. It depends on the quality of your green screen and how many lights you have shining on it. Mine, I have a lot of light shining on it, so it's very easy. It also doesn't really match my skin tone or anything I'm wearing. If you're wearing something green, you might find that part of you had just disappeared here, which can be hilarious, isn't what we're going for currently. So feel free to adjust the sliders if you'd like to try and match your exact shade of green. I can make it match none of my green and all of it displays, or everything and I'm just gone. It just doesn't get old. But I'm going to leave it right where it kind of started, in the middle, where it gets rid of the green but doesn't get rid of any of me. And once I'm good with that, I can press close. And it looks like I'm there. So this is pretty fantastic, I'd say. Now, one of the big questions that a lot of you had asked was, how did I do the closed captioning thing? And that's a very good question. I can show you. There are a number of plugins available for OBS that allow you to do closed captions. Accessibility is very important, especially when teaching online classes. And just because you're having fun in Animal Crossing doesn't mean that's an exception. So you can actually choose pretty much any closed captioning plugin you'd like. If you just Google OBS closed captioning plugins, I'm sure you'll find one. Now, I have a couple that I've preferred, that I like choosing, and I've given links to them in the description below. So if you'd like to follow along, you can download that one, or if you're feeling a little creative, you can also just go off and find your own. For the sake of this tutorial, I'll use the one that I've downloaded, which once you download it, using again the link below, it'll appear under Tools. You won't have as many tools as I do. I do a lot with OBS, so I have a lot here. The only one you need to worry about is the one that says Cloud Closed Captions. That's a bit of a tongue twister. This one's brilliant because it actually goes to Google to get the translations, which is exciting. So if I click that, it'll open up a new window here. Hello. And it'll say that, captioning has been enabled, blah, blah, blah. Now, you'll note that nothing's actually appearing here, and that's because right now, oh, wait, what am I doing? All right, well, I was hoping that would take a second to populate, so I pressed the button, but it just took a second to get the hang of my screen. That works too. Either way, if you go to settings, you can adjust it, and you can actually choose, and I'll bring this on here, what language it is, how your punctuation should work, everything like that. I'm going to keep mine standard, and I'll keep my profanity filter off because I do like swearing vigorously, and I'm pretty good with this one. Now, here's the fun part. You have a lot of options with how to deal with the closed caption preview. One of which is you can move it to another screen and grab the screen recording of it. You can also leave it on screen and grab it there. If you have more than one desktop, like you have several monitors, it's a lot easier to just move it to another screen and work with it there. But if not, that's okay too. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to try and keep it as simple as I can and move it to another screen. Now, you'll notice you can't see it anymore, but that's because it's over on another screen to my left, and that's fine. What I'm going to do now is grab the content coming from it so I can put it on my stream. So what I'm going to do is press the plus button. Again, we should get used to this plus button right now. And on here, I'm going to choose, let's take a look here, window capture. I could also do display capture. The difference being display capture will capture an entire display, an entire monitor, and window capture will only capture a window. For the sake of this example, because I have mine on another monitor, I'm just going to get the entire display that it's on. You don't have to, but you can if it makes it easier. Feel free to, again, just go to window capture and choose the caption window. But again, for this example, I'm choosing display. So on display, I can create a new one, and I'm going to call this captions example. And I can choose which screen. I have a couple screens hooked up to this, so I get to choose. There's that Google Translate from before. And this is the screen to my left that actually has all the captions on it. And you can see it's trying to translate what I'm saying. So I'll press OK, and now I have this thing here. Or I guess here, kind of. So this is what I'm looking at because it's full screen on the other window. And this is what I want to put actually at the bottom. You'll note that at the very bottom of this screen, I can already see it's almost doing it. Look at that. That looks like Animal Crossing text going across the screen. I'm very, very close. But it's a little too small, it's not the right color, there's some stuff in the way, and overall there's just a couple issues. But those are very easy to fix. So let's give it a shot. Step one is going to be making it so only the actual text that I want appears. So what I'm going to do is with this captions, I'm actually going to right-click on it and go back to filters. This is, again, me doing this on the captions window. On the captions window, I'm going to add a filter. And instead of chroma key, I'm actually going to add the crop/pad option. This lets me crop it down or cut out the parts I don't need. And because I only need those bottom 3 lines, this one's pretty straightforward. I'll label it crop pad, and that's fine. And now I can have a little fun with this. So depending on how much I put into each of these variables, this is how much from that side of the screen it takes out. So I don't want a whole bunch of the right of the screen, so I'm just going to guess. And the exact pixel amounts are going to be different on your computer. In fact, let's see what mine are. Is 400 enough? No, 400 is not nearly enough. 800? Ooh, almost. I want to get it lined up with the end of that line of those 3 lines at the bottom as best I can. So maybe 900 perhaps? Ooh, that looks good. I'm pretty happy with 900. If I want to cut it really close, I can do like maybe 950. Oh, that's fantastic. Look at that. So I'm only getting this chunk. Now, of course, there is a bunch at the top that I also don't want, so I'll need to get rid of that. Is 900 another good number? Nope, that's too much. That actually took out the top of it. What about 800? Ooh, I'm getting close. So it's between 800 and 900. And this is something that you'll have to do where you just experiment around until you find exactly what you need. So it looks like my golden number is going to be somewhere around 883, just where I can cut off the top. Now, of course, the left and bottom still have those two, which I don't need. So the bottom, I'll cut off, let's see here, maybe 50. Oh, there we go. That worked really well, actually. I like that it's trying really hard to translate what I'm saying. Again, this isn't a perfect software. But let me take off that bar on the left. So let's take a look if I do maybe 50. Nope, 50 is too much. Perhaps 15 then. 15 maybe. I think I can get closer than that. 20. There we go. Look at this. So now the only thing here is just the actual content of the text, which is pretty good. So I can actually close this for a second just to take a look. Hey, there it is. I'm getting there. You're already almost there. You can see how this comes together, right? So now there's a bit of a problem. This isn't actually the speech bubble from Animal Crossing. The speech bubble from Animal Crossing is friendly and yellow. This one is ugly and black and white. So let's add that friendly yellow text box, just like Isabel has in the morning announcements. So I'm going to, again, and you could probably guess by now, go to the bottom, press plus, and add another image. This image is going to be the text box. So I'm actually going to call it text box example. There we go. And again, I have posted a link to an isolated text box below. Now, you'll notice that the text box I'm using here already has my name on it. You're going to have to take the empty text box that I've made for you and put your name on it somehow. There are a lot of ways to do this in Microsoft Paint, Photoshop, or any online source, but I'll leave that one to you. Obviously, I can't put your name on it because I don't know what your name is. So that is something I have to leave up to you. But for now, you can go in and choose the text box. There it is. And there's mine. Mine already says Lucas because that's my name. Yours, you'll have to go in and add something to. And I'll make it big so it takes up the full screen. I've sized all of these so that when you make them the full screen, it will go exactly where it needs to go. You're welcome. But obviously there's a problem here. My text is appearing behind it. That's an easy fix though. I can simply go to the text box example and put it underneath the captions. Hey, there we go. And now I can actually click my captions and make sure that I center them correctly, make them a little bigger. We're almost there. We're very, very, very close, but not quite. So what do you say we make these captions the right color? Because it should be transparent background with darker text. This is light text with a black background. So I'm actually going to right-click Captions Example and go to Filters. We've already been here before, so you'll see that there's the Crop Pad option already there. If you need to edit it, you can here, but I'm actually going to add a new one by pressing the plus button and clicking on the, let's take a look here, Color Key button. This is just like Chroma Key, only it doesn't have to be green. This can be any color. In this case, we're going to get rid of all that blackish gray background. So I'll click Color Key, and I'll label it Color Key, that's fine. And now my goal isn't actually green. My goal is to make a custom color disappear, and that custom color is going to be that dark gray black. So I'm going to try and get this right. It doesn't have to be exact, but it has to be close to it. That's not bad. If you get it close, it'll disappear, which is great. But you'll note that even if I were to press OK with this, that's not readable. In fact, that's kind of awful. White text is not the color of Isabel's voice. So instead, we do have to edit it a little more. So we're going to add one last filter. I promise it's the last filter. And we're going to go and press plus again. And this time, we're going to add something called color correction. Normally, this is really useful if you need to correct, well, the color of something, which is kind of what we're doing here. So what I'm going to end up doing is choosing color multiply. And let's take a look here. I'll do black because I want the text to be dark so I can still see it. Ooh, there we go. Now, you can actually see what it looks like live here. Sometimes it can be a little hard to read, and that's fine. You can adjust all of your settings till it gets rid of those nasty edges. Let's see what I can do to make this look as good as I can. Because it's black and white, there's only so much I can really mess with, but I'm still going to give it a shot. Let's see. There we go. Fun fact, in-game, the text isn't specifically black. It's actually a kind of gray. So I'll adjust the opacity so it's mostly gray. That's good, that's good. Anything else that you want to edit, you can go back and mess with to your heart's content. Maybe it's the color key that you'd like to change a little bit. Maybe you want to adjust the brightness, whatever it is. You'll note that a lot of them won't do too much because we're working with a black and white image. If it's too hard to read, notice that I can just add more similarity under color key so it takes out more. And I'll do this to where I feel comfortable, like this should be readable. Ooh, this looks good. I like this the most, I think. And I can even smooth it out if it's a little too blocky. There we go. Oh, look at that. See, now that looks good. Now I'm going to press close. And just like that, I'm talking in Animal Crossing. Now, I could be happy here, but let's be honest, there's so much more we can do. Let's just add a little something else, just because why not? Now, you probably noticed when I started mine, I actually had a loading screen there. You can too, and it's very, very easy. So let's talk about the transition. We have 5 things in our sources panel right now. We have the captions, the text box behind it, the desk that I'm standing behind, the background behind me, and of course the video of me. So what I want to do is add another one. I'm going to add a loading screen that'll go over everything that has, just like the Switch actually has, the loading screen. So I'm going to press add, and if you haven't guessed by now, you haven't been paying attention, we're going to go to image, and I'm going to create a new one called loading example. And just like with every other one so far, I've placed a link to this loading screen in the description, so you can simply download it and click browse. And once you get the loading screen, you'll note that it's right up there in the top. It already appears over everything, so I'm just going to drag this on, and just like that, it's loading. When you're done loading, because it's not actually loading, it just looks like it, you can press the eyeball next to loading example, and you can make it appear or disappear at your leisure. So you can get everything set up in the background, and then once you're good, you click the eyeball, and ta-da! You can see again. Now, the last thing I do want to show you is how to really make it look legitimate. Because if you note in the actual morning announcements, Isabel's text box isn't there until she starts talking. And I want to do the same thing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to go to the plus, and I'm not going to add a new image this time. I'm going to add a group. It's the bottom option. It's a folder where all of your similar things go. And I'm going to make a group. This one's going to be called text example. And in text example, I'm going to put everything related to the text box, such as the caption and the text box itself. Now, if they overlap each other, that's fine. You can just rearrange them within the folder. And you do want to make sure that your loading example is in front of it, otherwise you'll be able to see everything here, which might be what you're looking for, but for me it's not, so I'm going to drag that lower. So now the layers are as follows. Loading, which goes over everything, the text box, which goes over the desk, which goes over me, and me, which goes over the background. So with all of these combined, we have a pretty solid look into the Animal Crossing world. And to answer one more question, just because we like overachieving like that, several people asked, how did the music play and whatnot? That's actually not that challenging. In fact, and you can probably guess by now, I have a link in the download because it turns out that the music that plays during Isabel's morning broadcast is actually a perfect loop. So you can just take a piece of it and put it on there without any issue. That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to press plus, and I'm going to go to media source. It's the first time we've done media source because this isn't a video, but it is a piece of media. It's a sound. So I'm going to add media source, and I'm going to call this one Animal Crossing sound example. That's a mouthful. I could probably make that smaller, but it doesn't matter what I call it because, again, this is just an example. So I'm going to press OK, and it's going to ask, where do we want to find this thing? Just like everything else, I'm going to browse for the one you just downloaded, and I'm going to put that in there. Now, you'll notice there are some options here. You do want to make sure you get this right. So the only real thing you need to make sure you click is the loop button. That means that it'll play on a loop, as you can probably guess from the title. So with that and pressing OK, I can actually play it. Now, you can't hear it right now because I'm focused more on recording what I'm saying rather than the actual background music, but you'll note that I see a bar going to and fro there. If I want to stop it, I simply click the eyeball, and it goes away. And when I want to start it again, I click, and there it goes. So it's pretty straightforward like that. Feel free to, when you introduce it to your Discord friends, class, or wherever you'd like to use this, I would recommend, perhaps, it doesn't matter where the sound goes in the layers menu, starting with a loading screen and hiding the text folder. And that way, when the loading screen started, you can start the music. Then, once you feel you're ready, you take off the loading screen, you look around, and you can start talking by clicking the text box button. All of these are rather straightforward, and once you're done, you can click the loading screen again as though your game is about to start, and if you want to, you can even give the Animal Crossing music a nice fade out in the background. There it is. And it's just that simple. So, let me go back to my normal one. And there you go. So, realistically, it is not that hard. If what I just did looked like a lot, I promise once you get the hang of it, it's very, very simple. Nothing I've done is out of crazy challenging, and in fact is so easy/fun that there's a lot more than you can do with it than just that. In fact, here, let me get out of OBS just so you can actually see me and not OBS. So I'm going to click on, let's see here. There we go. Don't worry, I'm still here. And I'm back full screen. So, whether you're going to use this tool as an addition to your arsenal on your crusade to sculpt young minds and shape the youth of tomorrow, or you're just going to make a fool of yourself on your Discord server with friends, I hope that it serves you well. Please keep in mind that OBS is just the tip of the iceberg. There are an infinite amount of tools available on the internet that a little searching will dig up that are all free and accessible for you to use without any issue, all of which can facilitate engagement, the likes of which most people aren't considering. I know I'm not the first to start using it like this, but I'm hoping that I'm the one that can convince you to do so. If even one student actually figures something out because they weren't asleep in class, well, then you know what, I feel like I've done my job with all this. And as a little bonus, I'll part with you with a couple of the other things that I occasionally do for students, but this time these don't have tutorials like the Animal Crossing one does. Maybe, after messing around with OBS and other similar software after a while, you'll figure out how to do these as well. Your Honor, I propose that there are a number of unique ways to engage students using game, movie references, and what have you, and that most instructors just start... Is someone getting a call? Snake! I'm trying to engage my students and teach an online lesson, but they're all falling asleep and not paying attention. What do I do? No answer? That's fine, I'll figure something else out. Von Hollen out. Seriously? That's kind of racist.